Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for February 2nd, 2018. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about some movie and TV news, including Roman Polanski being a character in Quentin Tarantino's new movie and the role Tom Cruise might play in that film, J.J. Abrams' mysterious new TV show, a TV adaptation of Gone Baby Gone, a new starring vehicle for Leonardo DiCaprio, and some images of a black April O'Neil in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have hit the internet. My name is Ben Pearson. I am the senior writer at SlashFilm.com, and joining me today is SlashFilm's weekend editor, Brad Oman,
Hey, that's me.
and writer Hoai-Tran Bui.
Hey everyone.
All right, guys, how's it going? So let me ask you, I sort of teased this yesterday. What are you guys doing for the Super Bowl? Anything special? Brad, how about you?
I'm just gonna get together with some friends and have some Super Bowl food and watch the game, and also be online to post any of the upcoming Super Bowl spots from various movies that will be debuting during the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have a list right now on, an internal list of a bunch of movies that are supposed to be debuting trailers or at least new bits of footage. And I'm wondering, HT, do you have any movie trailers or TV trailers or anything that you're looking forward to seeing at this year's Super Bowl?
That mysterious solo trailer, if it ever drops, is supposed to drop on the Super Bowl and then have a longer trailer uh, be released Monday morning at on Good Morning America. So I'm really curious to see if this trailer, this famous trailer, actually does appear during the Super Bowl.
Yes. And Brad, I'm sure you're super interested in that as well, since Han Solo is like one of your favorite characters, right?
Yes, cautiously anticipatory, I guess would be the best way to put it, since I don't really know how this is going to work out. I think, if anything, I'm more excited to see either the Mission Impossible trailer or the Westworld Season 2 trailer.
Ah, cool. Yes. So you guys can be sure to tune in to slashfilm.com over the weekend. We'll have all of those trailers posted on the site as soon as they go live. HT, are you doing anything special for the Super Bowl? I cut you off there.
No, it's okay. I usually don't do anything. My friends and I have been kind of doing a small gathering where we get together to watch the Super Bowl, even though none of us have an interest at all in football. We just do it for the commercials. But this year we decided to push it back to just do an Oscar party instead. So
Nice.
I'm not doing anything this year.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much gonna be just taking it easy. I might have like one or two friends over and we'll watch it and see how it goes. But let's jump into the news. So let's start off with Quentin Tarantino's new movie, which annoyingly still does not have an official title, so we just have to keep calling it Quentin Tarantino's new movie. HT, what are the latest updates about this film?
Yes, so Quentin Tarantino's upcoming untitled movie that's not about the Manson family murders, but is actually about the year 1969, has a few new details that have been unveiled. So this comes from Variety's Justin Kroll, who said on Twitter, the role Pitt and Cruz have met on is for that of a stuntman, not prosecutor. The Leo character, Leonardo DiCaprio, is also Tate's neighbor in the pic, and Roman Polanski will play a key role in the film. Quentin Tarantino is going the discovery route and wants an authentic Polish thespian. So when he says Roman Polanski will play a role in the film, he means as a character because Roman Polanski was Sharon Tate's husband at the time of her murder. And while he was not present at the murder, he was in London at the time. It was his house, and he was the father of the child with which Sharon Tate was pregnant with when she was murdered by Charles Manson's followers
Mhm.
in 1969. So this is a brand new update for the film, and one that might ruffle a few feathers because of the controversy surrounding Roman Polanski in general. It was in 1977. He was arrested and charged with sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl, and he fled the U.S. Before trial. The case went to trial and has been living in Europe in exile ever since. So these events happened after the events of 1969 and the Tate and the Sharon Tate's murder. So it's kind of in question whether Quentin Tarantino will delve into Polanski's past, or whether it will be an issue at all in the movie, which is it's just a whole other issue completely. So we don't really know what it means by he will play a key role, because it seems like this movie will be told mostly from the point of view of the sort of underlings of the movie industry, the stuntmen, like the role that Tom Cruise is reportedly up for, and other such sort of smaller people in Hollywood. And yeah, that's the other lead that I kind of buried in this role, is that Tom Cruise is up for the role of a stuntman, and Brad Pitt has supposedly passed on the role. So this is what we know so far of the as yet untitled Quentin Tarantino movie.
And you mentioned DiCaprio, and I think he's supposed to be playing a TV actor who's trying to like make his big break in the movies. Is that right?
Yes, he's playing an aspiring actor, and Margot Robbie is also circling the role for Sharon Tate.
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, this movie comes out on August 9th of next year, 2019. So there's probably still going to be plenty of time for us to talk about more casting updates and stuff as they come along in the way. Brad, do you have any thoughts about Polanski, the character of Roman Polanski, playing a key role in this movie?
I mean, it'd be one thing if they were making a movie about Roman Polanski and like romanticizing his life and, you know, telling a story about him and making him out to be a hero or something like that. But he's, you know, just happens to be an integral part of this thing that happened in, you know, real life that's part of history. And so to kind of cut him out just wouldn't make sense, just to, you know, appease people who don't like who he is. There are plenty of movies that have been made about despicable people without making them out to be, you know, good characters or good people. So I feel like it's just, you know, it just comes with the territory.
Yeah, and the idea of him playing a key character, I wonder if that means that it's actually going to translate into a significant role, or just a key character in that he is, as you mentioned, an important figure in this whole thing, and like HT was saying, it's his house. You know, if that's the extent of what that means, you know, just his involvement in this whole situation. But we'll have to wait until we get a little bit more information about that before we can fully speculate. Speaking of not having all of the information and being able to speculate the hell out of some things, J.J. Abrams, the mystery master, is coming back to HBO for a new sci-fi drama show. Brad, tell us about this.
Yeah, so J.J. Abrams was apparently pretty pleased with how HBO handled Westworld, which is a Bad Robot production. And so he went with HBO, who won a bidding war between over Apple for his new series, which is called Demimonde. And it's the first time JJ has actually written a sci-fi pilot episode since Fringe in 2008, so that's kind of a big deal. He's executive produced plenty of sci-fi series in the years since Fringe, but this is the first time he's actually written a spec script for a new series. And so details are slim, but apparently what we know right now is it's described as an intimate sci-fi fantasy drama, and it focuses on this family who gets into a car crash, and the mother, who happens to be a scientist, ends up in a coma, leaving her daughter to start digging through some old experiments of hers in the basement. And somehow she stumbles upon this other world where there's a mysterious, monstrous, oppressive force that exists in it, and her soon follows her into the world sometime after she discovers it. And it's all very vague and mysterious in the way that a lot of J.J. Abrams projects are. Right off the bat, I kind of get the vibe that maybe whatever this oppressive force is in this other world might serve as a metaphor for the grief and whatnot that the daughter and father are dealing with the mother being in a coma. And but I also wonder if maybe there's more of a tangible link between whatever that world is and whatever is happening with the mother's health. That sounds like something that would be right up J.J. Abrams' alley as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, either way, I'm always excited when J.J. gets a new sci-fi series that he brings to the table, especially when it's one that he's written himself. He has a knack for finding very interesting shows with very promising hooks and interesting premises. You know, that's why we got Lost, that's why we got Fringe, and that's why we got Westworld. So I'm on board with whatever they have to do, and knowing that HBO is in charge means that it's going to be something that's a little more edgy and perhaps satisfying than what network TV might usually offer.
Yeah, and the plot for this reminds me just a little bit of A Wrinkle in Time, which we know is being adapted into a big screen movie from Ava DuVernay. I guess next month is when that comes out finally. HT, do you have any thoughts about Demimonde? What a weird title for a show. Do you have any ideas about what?
I mean, I'm a big fan of J.J. Abrams. I love Lost. I'm one of the few stark defenders of its finale, and I think that Fringe gets is highly underrated. So I am excited for whatever sci-fi pilot J.J. Abrams will bring on board. I do think that he is better as an ideas man, and that's why TV is kind of where he tends to flourish, because TV is sort of based on the premise of starting off with a really intriguing, really cryptic idea, and J.J. Abrams' mystery box, his whole concept of the mystery box is really well suited towards that, especially for TV pilots. So I'm excited. I don't know much about the series aside from the premise,
Mhm.
and I like the title. I think it's very unique and doesn't roll off the tongue well, but it's something that has good SEO.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to see it whenever it comes about.
So, Brad, the other big question with this is if Abrams is going to be potentially involved with this show, when do you think we're going to see it? Because he's also pretty busy right now working on Star Wars Episode 9.
I mean, when it comes down to it, he wrote the pilot already, and I can't imagine he's going to end up directing the pilot because he's going to be busy with Star Wars. I think it'll probably be a situation where he is kind of overseeing the projects in the same way that Steven Spielberg executive produces a lot of movies and TV shows, where he's involved, but he's not necessarily the one making all of the key decisions. I think that Abrams will find a showrunner that he trusts and other executive producers to kind of keep the show and turn into something that he wants to see, because he also has that Castle Rock series that's coming out to Hulu too, which is done by now. But if it's successful, then he'll have to follow that up with a new season, presumably. So I have a feeling that he won't be too heavily involved in the trajectory of the series, other than just being responsible for writing the pilot and maybe setting the team of executive producers and writers on the path to where the show should go.
Cool. All right, so from one TV project to another, let's jump over from HBO to Fox. And Fox has apparently given a TV pilot order for a Gone Baby Gone adaptation. HT, what's up with this one?
So Fox has ordered the pilot for an adaptation of Gone Baby Gone, based off of the novel by Dennis Lehane, which was also the basis for Ben Affleck's adaptation, which came out in
2007, right?
2007. Yes, 2007. This is coming almost 10 years later. So the pilot is written by Black Sails creator Robert Levine, and it'll be a 1-hour drama following the private detectives Patrick Kenzie and Angela Gennaro, who are, quote, armed with their wits, their street knowledge, and an undeniable chemistry, tackling cases in working class Boston borough of Dorchester. So it sounds like it's the pilot for a more streamlined sort of procedural take, rather than the sort of cynical type suspenseful drama that we saw with Ben Affleck's film. But it has not yet been greenlit for an entire season. It's just the pilot so far, but it's aiming for Fox's 2018 to 2019 TV season. And apart from Levine, it's also being executive produced by Levine and the author Dennis Lehane.
So, man, this just seems like TV networks these days are really like going hard after anything with name recognition. We've seen movies do this over the past, I don't know, 20 years or something, like take a hard turn toward adapting any sort of property that it has any familiarity that audiences, will bring their own recognition and baggage into something, and potentially go check it out just because they've heard of a property before. But with like shows like Lethal Weapon and Hawaii Five-O and all these different things over the past, 10 years in TV, it really seems like this is a trend that is not going anywhere anytime soon. Brad, do you think there's a chance for a Gone Baby Gone show on Fox to be any good, or is that something that should probably better be left, to the big screen format, where they're going to have a lot more freedom to dive into the sort of darker, like HT was saying, sort of cynical nature of that story?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if anything, this might just be like the jumping off point to expand the characters in Gone Baby Gone to maybe becoming part of more of a broad crime procedural show or something like that. I could easily see them using the story in Gone Baby Gone as a jumping off point, being like, okay, so this is the first season, and then maybe the second season exploring something different using some of the same characters. Fox has a penchant for doing crime procedurals like that, not nearly as much as CBS does, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to new adaptations like this, you kind of just have to wait and see. I wasn't necessarily on board with the TV adaptation of Fargo when they first announced it, but that ended up being one of the best shows released that year. So, it's it can be hit or miss, but when it hits, it can turn out pretty good.
I would love to see them actually film this in Boston, because that was such a huge part of Affleck's movie, was really getting that homegrown feel to that movie and that authenticity there. I don't know if that's like a feasible thing for an entire television production to to set up, for a network show and something that's more procedural like this. But that would be one way maybe for it to be able to sort of distinguish itself from some of the other more traditional network TV shows. Like I think there was a show called The Chicago Code that was on a few years ago.
I love that show so much.
Yeah, me too. And that one I think actually filmed a good portion of it, if not the whole thing, in Chicago, and it really made a difference. You could tell that they weren't just on some studio backlot somewhere. They were actually, out in real life locations. So I hope that Gone Baby Gone maybe has the ability to do something similar.
It should also be noted that the Dennis Lehane's original novel, Gone Baby Gone, was actually the fourth in a series following these two detectives. So it actually kind of lends itself better to a more serialized television show, I guess, than just a movie. So this might actually work out well for the Fox series if it comes into play.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've never read those books. I'd only seen the movie, so that's cool to hear. All right, let's jump to the next one, and that is Leonardo DiCaprio is supposed to play Leonardo da Vinci in a Leonardo da Vinci movie. Brad, what's up with this one?
Aside from saying Leonardo way too many times, not a whole lot. Paramount picked up this project, the rights to a book written by biographer Walter Isaacson. Last year, Walter Isaacson is the guy who wrote the best-selling biography about Steve Jobs that Aaron Sorkin based his screenplay for the movie on. So he's a very good biographer. He really digs into a person's life and gives you the details that show us who they are and what made them tick. And so Paramount has just hired screenwriter John Logan to adapt the book. John Logan has written movies like Skyfall and Hugo and Gladiator. And he's going to work on the script while Leonardo DiCaprio is off shooting the Quentin Tarantino movie that we talked about earlier. So the hope is that sometime after that movie is done, he'll be able to move on to this one. DiCaprio has a little bit of a soft spot for this one because his namesake actually comes from the fact that I guess when his mother felt him kick for the first time as a baby, she was looking at a Leonardo da Vinci painting at a museum in Italy at the time, which is why she decided to name him Leonardo, apparently. So that's pretty cool. My only hope for this movie is that they call it Leonardo da Movie, and then I just feel like the marketing writes itself.
So DiCaprio kind of has like, for lack of a better term, he sort of has a hard-on for playing real-life historical figures. Some that are more recent than others. Like the Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that. But and even like The Revenant, he played a character that is sort of a real guy, but that movie was sort of an amalgamation of real historical fact and also a little bit of like folklore and legend in there with that character.
Yeah.
But
funnily enough, actually, John Logan wrote The Aviator, which Leonardo DiCaprio played Howard Hughes in. So
yeah, man. So like, how much further back in the timeline can Leo go playing these old? I know there's a movie adaptation of Methuselah, the biblical character who's like supposedly the oldest person to ever live, and I think Tom Cruise at one point was up to play that role. I wonder if Leo is eyeing that just to sort of span the entire breadth of human history. HT, do you have any thoughts about Leo playing Leo in this movie?
Well, I think that he's been waiting his whole life to play this character.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really have any thoughts other than everything that Brad said. And it is funny though that Leonardo DiCaprio, he's not getting up in his age per se, but he's still a pretty young guy. And Da Vinci, I'm going to get so confused whenever I talk about this movie, is generally depicted as much older. So I'm wondering if Leonardo DiCaprio is going to play the young, hot version of Da Vinci per se. Maybe he's taking the Jude Law route.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, we'll have to wait and see for that one. So I mean, as if we hadn't said the name Leonardo enough in this podcast already, let's jump to another famous Leonardo, and that is Leonardo of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's a new animated TMNT show coming out. This is I believe, the fourth Ninja Turtle show. There was the original animated series that ran from the late 1980s until the mid 90s, and then there is a live action series that ran for 1 year, a different animated series that ran from 2003 to 2009, and then a third animated series that ran from 2012 until last year. And now this fourth one is called Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it features a black April O'Neil. That's kind of a cool thing. It's almost exactly what I have been wanting and have sort of been hinting at in articles that I've written about, representation in pop culture and little things that creators can do in order to expand their horizons and reach out and relate to different types of audiences instead of just staying in their traditional lanes. This is the kind of thing that I think works really well because there's nothing specifically about the character of April O'Neil as she's appeared in any of the other Ninja Turtles adaptations that demands that she be a white woman with red hair, even though that is commonly how she's been depicted. But interestingly, Slash Film contributor Rosie Knight took to Twitter and mentioned that this is not actually the first time that there will be a black April O'Neil. It sort of has been reported that way by Entertainment Weekly and some of these other places, but Rosie points out in this Twitter thread that we embedded in the article that you can read at slashfilm.com that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, in their original run of Ninja Turtles comics, April was often drawn as a black woman in those comics. It was sort of a contentious thing back and forth between Eastman and Laird because Laird has always said that April was meant to be a white redhead, but Eastman, who I believe named the character after his black girlfriend at the time of the original comics creation, often drew her as just like a straight up black woman in those comics. And it's kind of cool. In Rosie's Twitter thread, she has a couple screenshots of some of the pages there, and you can definitely see that that's exactly what was happening there. So it's kind of cool that this whole thing is coming full circle. I mean, the Ninja Turtles have been like a cultural staple and a touchstone for generations of kids for years and years and years, but this is the first time that the character is going to be like explicitly a black woman in this television show aimed at kids. There's also the Ninja Turtles themselves have a whole new different design, and I'm interested to see what you guys think about a black April, and B, more on a secondary level, what you think about the designs of these new turtles. HT, let's start with you.
Yeah, I had no idea about the history of April O'Neil originally being a black character, and that's really exciting to me. I really like the animation style for this. It's very stylized. It looks sort of similar to Samurai Jack, I guess I would say, from Cartoon Network.
Oh, yeah.
I think, yeah. So I really like that style. I think it suits the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles really well. And I did watch, I can't remember which, I think I watched the live action and series of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up. So that one I was really into. But I missed all the other series apparently. I did not know there are so many. So yeah, I think this is a really good first step for representation in animated series. Well, not a first step. It's part of an ongoing trend that's going on right now, and I'm really happy to see that happening.
Brad, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm all about changing up, the race of characters who have been white for a long time, simply because it's nice for people of other races to see themselves represented in characters that have been around for a while. As long as you're not, they're not changing the foundation of who the character is or what they are, and unless race is an integral part of their identity, it does no harm, no foul whatsoever. I think it's fantastic to see diversification in comic books and cartoons and movies and things like that. As for the design of the show, I could take it or leave it. I like the idea of what HT said. There's a bit of a Samurai Jack influence there, but there's something about it that just seems a little too, I don't know, otherworldly to me, and just it feels like it's trying to be wild for wild's sake. I don't necessarily get like the makeover as far as like how the turtles look themselves, but at the same time, this isn't really like for me anymore. I grew up with different Ninja Turtles, and those will always be my Ninja Turtles, and I don't really care about what's going on with the new ones. I was interested in the movies, but those completely, just derailed and did nothing for me. There's something that's weird about this one, though, where it seems like they're getting super powered or mystical, because, like, all of their weapons are glowing, and April's on, like, this weird hovering scooter or something like that. I don't know. It seems like it's the wackiest iteration of the Ninja Turtles there's been, I guess. So I really don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about the design when I first saw them. I thought it reminded me a lot of the old, like, the kid characters that were in Burger King commercials, and you would always see, like Kid Vid and those. I don't remember what their name was, like the Burger King Kids Club or whatever it was called back in the day.
Yep, that's what it's called.
Oh, cool. So yeah, it just sort of reminded me of that. But after HT mentioned Samurai Jack, which I haven't even seen, but just I love the idea that, as something clicked in my head when you said that, it makes more sense to me that these characters are so stylized and they have such harsh lines on them if they're going to be sort of flying through space in the same way that Samurai Jack does in what little I've seen of that show. So as far as the weapons, yeah, that it really doesn't make a ton of sense to me what they're doing with that. I mean, even Raphael, who's like traditionally had what were his weapons? Sai, I think, like the daggers, basically. It looks like he has like billy clubs or something in his hand now, like police batons almost.
And Michelangelo has like, it's not really a nunchuck. It looks like it's a handle that has like a claw that shoots out of it that's attached to like a chain or something.
I mean, I guess they have to do enough to differentiate this version from a lot of the previous versions, because as we mentioned, there have been a ton. And I mean, I guess that's part of the technological updates that need to come with keeping up with the times. But like Donatello, I think, is supposed to be like a master coder in this one, instead of just necessarily like smart with being able to break things apart and put them back together. So yeah, who knows, but I'm glad that we're all sort of on the same page in terms of the representation stuff, because I think that's really important, and that should be cool for a lot of people. I also want to list off the cast list here in case anybody's interested in that. Omar Miller will play Raphael. Ben Schwartz from Parks and Recreation is playing Leonardo. Josh Brenner from Silicon Valley is playing Donatello. Brandon Michael Smith from You're the Worst is playing Michelangelo. Kat Graham is playing April O'Neil. She's from the Vampire Diaries. And Eric Bauza is playing Splinter, the rat who trains the turtles in martial arts. So yeah, I don't think the show has an official release date yet, but it is going to be premiering sometime later this year, I think on Nickelodeon. So keep an eye out for that. And I think that's pretty much going to bring us to the end of this today's episode of Slash Film Daily, this week's worth of Slash Film Dailies. You can find more about all these stories at slashfilm.com, of course. This podcast is published every weekday, bringing you the most exciting news from the world of movies and television, as well as deeper dives into the great features at slashfilm.com. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, all of the popular podcast apps out there. Please send us your feedback, questions, and comments at peter@slashfilm.com, and be sure to leave your name and general geographic location in that email in case we end up reading it on the air in a future episode. Please rate and review the podcast on iTunes. That really does help us a lot, and spread the word, pass it around to all your friends. That would be great. Let's go around the circle really quickly and just tell people where they can find more of our work on the internet. HT, let's start with you.
You can find my work at slashfilm.com, and I'm on Twitter at Hoai-Tran Bui.
And Brad?
I also write at slashfilm.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Ethan_Anderton, and also my podcast, Go Flix Yourself, FLIX, on iTunes and other podcasting platforms.
And my name is Ben. You can find me at slashfilm.com, and you can track me down on Twitter at Ben Pears. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you guys on Monday.